I'm just going to reiterate that, of course, this is a collaborative effort with my colleagues at two sister institutions, and so I need to thank the two co-curators, Elisa Authors, the chief curator at the Museum of Arts and Design, and Laura Mott, who's the chief curator at the Cranbrook Art Museum, for their generosity of spirit, working on a project together, especially a project that highlights collaborative projects, was a kind of meta exercise for all of us. And it was, of course, we must, of course, also thank Sonya Clark, who really trusted us with her works, and also with the ongoing work that you will see shown in the exhibition galleries. The central premise of this show is to explore the textile artists' large-scale, community-centered projects. And the idea here is that, or I should say the hope is, that these projects can facilitate new dialogues and collective encounters across racial, gender, and socioeconomic divisions. In this exhibition, we brought together work that spans the artist's 30-year career in thematic groupings, and these thematic groupings really underscore Sonya's dedication to big, sometimes even monumental ideas. And these can be literally and figuratively tied together using themes like hair, flags, and language. And I should have called out that this is the wonderful exhibition catalog that we all collaborated on, and we're extremely proud of it, and the authors who also participated in this. The show's title is inspired by a poem. The poem's title is Paul Robeson, and it was written by Gwendolyn Brooks in 1970. And it ends with the verses, quote, "We are each other's harvest, we are each other's business, we are each other's magnitude and bond," end quote. And Sonya really admires language, she really admires poetry, and she kind of operates in this world. And as we were coming up with an exhibition title, this verse really resonated for her. She admires the work of Gwendolyn Brooks, who was the first African-American to win a Pulitzer Prize. And as we talked about this particular poem, a very well-accepted interpretation of Gwendolyn Brooks' poem is that it is viewed as a kind of acknowledgement of the personal sacrifice that Paul Robeson made. He was a very accomplished black athlete, lawyer, activist, who really fought racial injustice and used his voice to help others. And this is the point, right? We are each other. And as you walk through the exhibition, keep that in your mind, because this is something that is a real thread that weaves together all of the projects. Pun intended on the weaving reference, of course. In parallel, the textile artist Sonya Clark is asking all of us to acknowledge our individual responsibility to the collective whole. And as I've mentioned, the exhibition, of course, is a solo show that highlights the artist's community-centric and participatory projects. And Sonya will be the first to tell you that then that means that it's not just a show about her, but it's a show about you all too, because you're invited to participate in many of the projects. One of the longest running and earliest collaborative projects is this one, Beaded Prayers, which takes as its starting point the shared history of the word Badoon, which has an etymological root that means both bead and prayer. And so Sonya was really thinking about this when she was coming up with this project. And she was also thinking about the way that people use prayer beads to mark when they are kind of chanting or praying, right? This is something that, again, people do kind of globally. She was considering this concept and the idea that collectively made amulets can offer both a spiritual and a physical protection. And the project was begun a really long time ago. It was in 1998. She was an assistant professor at the University of Wisconsin in Madison, and she set about making this work that was based on the tenet that art is a collective and communal activity. She was also really interested in this fact that amulets are found throughout the world, and that beads and their history also have this kind of global reach. And further, she was also thinking about quilt aesthetics. And I bring that up because she had seen, kind of as she was researching this project, the Names AIDS Quilt Project in DC, where she's from, seeing that in 1996, seeing this effort of many, many people across this country kind of laid out in front of the Washington Monument. and also the kind of visual cues of that, right? Where you see this kind of these grids of color, and if you kind of squint a little bit and imagine, you know, the kind of grids of color of beaded prayers, there's a kind of similar visual language there. So this project, which has had thousands of participants all over the globe, will be added to here in Atlanta, and I'm very thankful to our education department, some of whom are here today, for spearheading several workshops so that Atlantans can contribute to this global phenomenon, and then their beaded prayers will continue on to the Museum of Arts and Design, and so on and so forth. In Sonya's work, this idea of craft and community are intertwined, and her participatory projects really are attempting to promote these collective encounters again. And though her work is very challenging, and she's asking a lot of us, and she's posing lots of questions, right? She's asking us to think about how we address and challenge our shared colonialist past. And one of these projects in which she's doing this is something called Reconstruction Exercise. So this is part of a larger suite of works that emerged from a moment. Sonya was at the Smithsonian Museum of American History. She went to go see an exhibition of material culture, and she spotted Lincoln's top. She's told this story many times. She spotted Lincoln's top hat, and she's a textilian, so of course she was interested in seeing it, and she's also very interested in the Civil War, so this thing, you know, drew her. And so she looked at the top hat, and then right next to the top hat was this, and it was a towel. Well, it's labeled a towel, but it was actually the flag of truce. It is the thing that stopped the Civil War. It is what we wrote, you know, it is how the South surrendered to the North. And she was dumbfounded that as a person who was extremely interested in the history of this nation, in the Civil War in particular, and also as a person who studies textiles, that she had never, ever encountered this before. And so she asked herself, why didn't she know that work? And this is, you know, and further, she asked herself, why do we know the Confederate battle flag, and why don't we know this one? So Sonya has made several works based on this original, again, the actual flag that ended the Civil War. And as part of the participatory, and of course this is of course the battle flag that we do know, that I was just referring to. As part of one of the participatory projects within the galleries of the exhibition, our visitors will have the opportunity to, again, participate in this idea of the truce flag instead of the battle flag. So in the galleries, you'll see several desks that visitors are encouraged to make rubbings. So on the desks, Sonya has created replicas of the flag of truce, and so you can use a piece of black paper and some crayons in order to make a rubbing of the flag of truce. And then on Saturdays during the run of the exhibition from 1 to 4 p.m., we will have weavers on hand in the galleries, and you too, if you come on a Saturday, can participate in the weaving of a long flag of truce that will get added to, you'll see it in the galleries, that will get added to what she has called Reconstruction Exercise. And this is another project that has been, that many museums across the country have taken a part in. And again, we here in Atlanta are also taking a part in it. And so it will continue to kind of travel on. And the idea behind this is really this notion that when you make something, you get to know something a little bit better. And it's not only about the weaving process, which is difficult, and this is why we are going to have experts on hand for people, so that so that they feel comfortable in weaving, but also the larger kind of intellectual project about how you're supposed to think about you're supposed to think about race relations in this country while you're doing this, and the larger idea that it's okay to make mistakes, right? We all make mistakes every day in our lives, and the imperfections are kind of what make us human and whole, and that as long as you're trying and you're participating, that's kind of going to get you closer to a resolution. And so the other kind of big idea that I want to put out there is that for Sonya, cloth is a monument, and this sentiment was revealed to her when she was a graduate student at the Cranbrook Art Academy. She interviewed her childhood friend's dad, who happened to be the great artist Sam Gilliam. And they sat down, they had an interview, and he said to Sonya, and I'm quoting, "Others look to a monument, we look to a piece of cloth," end quote. And if you know the work of Sam Gilliam, he makes these enormous, beautiful, paint-covered kind of tapestries that are cloth. Sonya has taken that sentiment, has thought about it a lot over the course of her 30-year career, and has shortened that sentiment. And so for her, cloth is that monument. And I hope you're able to kind of see that in many of the projects that are shown in the exhibition. Because this humble textile is really brought to life in so many different iterations, and it offers us lots of different symbols, again, that we might collectively embrace. And so, in closing, I just would like the audience to know, and some of us were talking about it earlier, that Sonya will be here in early January for some programs. We'll have a conversation here at the museum, a public conversation, so, and she is a delightful speaker. She's a professor at Amherst, and so she can talk about lots of different topics, and it's just a joy and a delight to hear from her, especially talking about this really important work and the way that she views it. But then we are also partnering with a local barbershop in order to create her project called Haircut for a Poem. This has only been enacted once before, in 2016 in Miami. You can see a video of it in the galleries. And the idea here is she selected a Calvin Herndon poem. Again, language and poetry is really important to her. And the participants read this poem in exchange for a free haircut. And it is an extremely powerful poem. So I encourage you to pay attention to our, I'm sure we'll advertise that on social media and in other ways. And so more details will be revealed soon. And I will now welcome you to the galleries.